CGCP 1811. White is slightly ahead in material, but black has a queen. So what should white do in this position? If king captures pawn, which seems like a sensible move, then queen to c7 check, king to g8, queen to c8 check, forking the king and rook, king to f7 defending the rook, d captures c5, rook to e7. This defends the king against more checks by the queen. The knight on d4 is not really under threat because capturing it with the pawn would expose the queen to being captured by the rook on c2. So black might proceed with c4, and white has a superior position here. Another way to proceed would be maybe rook captures d6, and then after king to f4, c6, queen to h5 check, king captures g7, queen to g5 check, king to f8, and white probably has an even better position. So white is winning, there's no doubt about that. But did you know that there's a mate in 5 here? I'll show you the solution now. So the key move is rook to f2. What does this threaten? Well, let's say black captures this free pawn on c5. Well then, rook to g6 check, king to h5, and rook mate. So what does black do? Well, he can capture this pawn with the queen, but white plays rook to g6 check anyway. The king is forced to h5. And here's the interesting continuation. Knight to e6. Now this threatens knight captures g7 with checkmate, and it also threatens knight to f4 with checkmate. So if black were to play, for example, queen to a7, well then white can win in many ways. Rook to g5 mate, rook to f5 mate, or even knight to f4 mate. But what if black plays queen to e5? This defends the g7 pawn, and it also guards the f5 and f4 square against occupation by the rook or knight. Well, here white simply plays rook to f5 check anyway. The queen has to capture, leaving the g7 pawn undefended, and white mates with a royal fork. Knight captures g7 checkmate. Notice how in this final position, white also has less material than black due to the rook sacrifice. Hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching.